Hey everybody, it's Stephanie with Instant Pot Basics and Beyond, and today we're going to make bread with a twist or a swirl, depending on how you look at it. So I know I have a bread video and I apologize, the sound quality is wretched and I probably should just delete the thing. But I thought today I would make another bread video. It's the same recipe, but we're going to do something fun with it. We're going to add a little cinnamon sugar swirl to it to jazz it up a bit, because why not? So we're going to start, I'm going to mix a few things together, then I'll explain some things about why bread in the Instant Pot. So this is a yeasted dough, but it is not an enriched dough, so there's no butter or eggs or milk or anything like that. So we're going to start with water. When I'm working with yeast, I want my water temperature on the inside of my wrist to be something I'd be comfortable washing my face with. That's how I figure it. I'm sure there's an actual temperature you could measure, but I don't have time for that. So we're going to add in just a little bit of sugar. And the reason for that is so the yeast has something to eat, so it will bloom. I buy yeast in bulk. I bought this, you know, when yeast is easily available. I buy it in the big, like, brick, the sans serif brick, and then I put it in a jar, and I keep it in my refrigerator. So this is 1 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, so if you have a packet of yeast, which is 2 1/2 teaspoons, it's just half of that. But so we're not going to wait to let this like proof and get all bubbly. This is still relatively quick. So I actually did this because I had a friend ask me about making bread in the Instant Pot, and my first thought was, why in the world would you make bread in the Instant Pot? It is a moist, steamy environment, and bread, you want a hot, dry oven, and it just didn't make any sense to me. So, but I thought, hey, I'll give it a try. And I've actually found that it's somewhat quicker in a way. We still do let the bread rise. The biggest bonus for me probably would be is that I don't have to turn my oven on. I can do it in my Instant Pot, and in a somewhat short period of time, I have a quick snack that my kids love. So that's kind of nice. Okay, so again, I just mixed this together. We're not going to, a lot of times with yeasted bread, you give it 10 minutes and let the yeast get all bubbly. We're not doing that today. So we've got that. I'm going to add in some flour. I'll put the recipe in the comments. And then some salt. And that's it for this bit. So this is the basic bread recipe. That's it. Honestly, bread is as simple as that for the most part. So we're just gonna stir this together. I like bamboo wooden spoons. You could get your hands in there. You can get flour all over your counter. I've actually learned I really don't like my hands dirty. And I avoid getting them all doughy at all costs, honestly. So I would much rather stir it with a spoon. The other thing we're not doing with this dough is we're not kneading it. This is it. You're bringing it together to form a ball. That's it. Okay, so here I'm going to give you a little bit of variation. If we were making just plain bread, like I do in my other terrible video, well, I'm great in it. You just can't hear me. You would put this in the pan, put it in the Instant Pot, let it proof in the Instant Pot, cook it straight. What I like to do with this cinnamon swirl bread is give it a first rise in the bowl, then we're going to shape it, and then we'll give it one last quick proof in the pan, in the Instant Pot, and then cook it. So what I do from here is I'm just going to put a damp towel over the top, let it sit. If you wanted to put it in another bowl, grease the top, la la la, that's typically what I do with yeasted breads. You can. Guys, the point of this is it's super quick, it's super easy, we're not making a mess of the kitchen, we're not going to the trouble of like making bread, okay? I don't like to make bread because I don't have time for all of that in my life. So this works for me. 1 spoon, 1 bowl, you're done, okay? So we're going to put this to rise. My favorite thing to do is I set my oven temp as low as it'll go, which is typically 170 degrees Fahrenheit. let it preheat to that, and then turn it off, and it's like the perfect incubation temperature. Other people I've heard they just turn the light bulb on in their ovens, although I don't know if light bulb ovens produce heat anymore. Who knows? Or if you have a particularly warm place in your house, in the summer, my kitchen is warm enough on its own, I can just leave it on the counter. In the winter, it's like the polar opposite. So, however you want to let that proof, or let it sit for about an hour. Let me tell you one other thing. So, my preferred pan for this is the push bottom pan, just because it's so much easier to get it out of the pan. I'll show you, but we just spray this down. Just spray it down with some vegetable cooking spray. Again, if you wanted to do a plain loaf, you just plop it in there, put it in your pot, there's a cup of water in there, put the lid on. I'll show you how we let it rise when we're done with the swirly bits. Anyhow, so recap. Dough made, dough gonna rest, dough gonna rise, and we'll be back in a minute. Alright everybody, so as you can see, our dough has proofed nicely, and so now we are going to do the cinnamon swirly bit. So we're just going to put some flour out on the counter. This is a little sticky. We all know how much I love getting my hands dirty. Okay, so flour your hands a little bit, and you're going to dump this out onto the counter. And then we're just going to work it into a rectangular-ish shape. Again, this is quick and messy. Maybe messy isn't the right word, but we're not trying to be a perfectionist about this. Rustic, that's a good word to use, right? Maybe just kind of keep working with it, moving it around. Sometimes I like to flip it over. You do want the thickness kind of even. Try to avoid getting holes in it. You know. Anyhow, if you have a hole, just smush it together. This is very uneven. What's going on here? Okay. Goodness sakes, guys. Alright. Rectangle-ish. That's what we were going for, right? Okay, so then we're going to take a cinnamon sugar mixture. This is a 1/4 cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Use almost all of it, but not all of it. And it's a pretty generous amount, but I mean, the dough itself isn't really going to taste like much. If you want this to actually be kind of a fun treat for your kids, then, you know, we gotta get the good stuff in there. Okay, so that's maybe a tablespoon-ish, 2 tablespoons left in the bowl. Alright, then you're gonna roll it up. Which can be tricky if it's stuck to your counter, but just work with it. Again, it's okay if it's sloppy. It's okay if all it wants to do is stick to your fingers. Alright. Just keep working with it. There have been other times when I've made this, I get out my bench scraper and like scrape it as I go. I don't feel like getting it out today though. We'll make it work. So just tuck it under as you're going. Again, this is like rolling up cinnamon rolls. If you've never made cinnamon rolls, that's fine. Just kind of tuck and roll the best you can. Tuck and roll. Just keep going. You don't want it tight. You don't want a bunch of air in it. So just keep a rolling. You'll get there. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay, then when you get to the end, you're going to bring it over kind of pinch it shut. Okay, like so. Then you're gonna roll it. Oh, no, hold on. So this is, remember I saved the extra? Because we're gonna roll it this way so it fits in the pan. So we want to add another layer. I didn't do it the first time I made this and I was kind of sad. So add a little bit of cinnamon sugar. And again, if you want more in this bit, then use less and save more to do this. So then you're gonna roll it up like a snail. No. Okay. And now we have like a giant cinnamon roll thing. Okay, so remember I talked about our pan. I sprayed it with vegetable spray. So we're gonna plop this in the pan. And then we're going to plop this in the Instant Pot. So I already have a cup of water in here. We're going to let this proof for about 20 minutes. The way we're going to do that is we're going to turn it to warm. Warm. It doesn't matter what your thing says. And we're just going to put the lid on. And you're just going to let it sit for 20 minutes. Okay? And then I will talk about how we're going to cook it. And I'm going to go wash my hands because as you can see, you're driving me crazy. Be back in just a second. Alright, so you can see that it's all done proofing. So let me show you how we're going to cook it. Okay, we proofed for 20 minutes. It's nicely risen. It's filled out the pan. That's also what you would be looking for if you didn't do the swirl part and you just put the bread in to rise. Is that nice? Just it's filled out the pan. It's got some air bubbles. It's poofy looking. You're not gonna get as extensive as a rise as you would like at the regular loaf of bread, but enough. Okay, so we're going to cook. We are gonna hit manual. It's gonna cook for 45 minutes. So you want to make sure that your venting valve is set to sealing. Here's another thing. Oh. So let me just back to here and we'll get back to there. So it's going to wait till just a few seconds till it knows for sure that's what you want. Once it knows that's what you want, it will switch to on. Once it comes to pressure, it will lock. This will then have your time and it will count down until it's done. Once it's done, let it sit. We're going to let it natural release. Takes about 10 minutes or so. Pop it open. You've got bread. Once it's done, you want to be careful because it's going to be hot. So you pull it out, let it sit for a few minutes, and then you're going to want to pop it out of the pan, take it off the bottom of the pan and let it sit on a cooling rack or the bottom gets kind of mushy. But you want to let it sit because sometimes there's but it's a little wet in the bottom of the pan. And if you put your hand through, you don't want like dripping hot liquid running down your arm. So maybe like 10 minutes or so. Okay, anyhow, what I was going to tell you though is I have sometimes just left my valve to sealing while it's proofing, and sometimes it gets warm enough in there that the locking pin pops up like it's come to pressure. Please make sure that when you go to start to cook it, you have pushed that pressure button down, because it is not at pressure. I've had that happen once or twice with other recipes, so I've realized, and I always check. It will think it's at pressure and it's not, and you're not going to get the right cooking that you need. Total side note. Okay, so we're going to let this cook. Once it is done, I will show you our beautiful loaf of bread. Okay? Alright, here's our finished loaf. Looks pretty good, yeah? I think so. We got a nice swirl in the bottom, swirl on the top. Let me move my camera and I will cut into it and show you what it looks like on the inside. Alright, let's cut into this and see what we have. Ta-da! So it's kind of fun because you see these little swirls are the swirls from when we rolled it, and then you get some of the bigger swirls from when we did the snail roll. Alright everybody, that's our bread video for today. So you can make plain bread, bread with a twist. Like I say, it's quick, it's easy, it doesn't require you turning on your oven. So I hope you give this a try. Be sure to like our video, subscribe so you can see all the great things that we've got coming at you. Feel free to leave requests in the comments. Hope you have a great day.